everyone, this is Sabrina. Welcome back to my channel. I have a very long video to share with you, and that is my reading journal for this year. As I was putting together the video, I realized that wow, this is a really long video. And what I did is I put everything together this year. Last year I did 2 videos, so I did the setup and then the challenges. So for this year, it's just all one giant video. So I hope you are ready for a long video. If you have a favorite drink or a project you could do while you're watching this, I just put a lot of heart and love into this reading journal, and I'm so excited to share it with you. This year, I decided to try out a Clever Fox journal. I talk about Elle all the time, but she does a reading journal and she uses these, and she actually uses, I think, 3. And so I decided I could try it. It's definitely cheaper than, say, an Archer and Olive. There is some ghosting and you can see some stamping through the next page, but that's only if you stamp really hard, and I'll talk about that when I get to those pages where I stamped too hard. And I would say also markers definitely bleed through. Colored pencils are better option to use. I also wanted to say that I did use some stamp sets that are retired, like Feed Your Craft stamp sets, but in my description box, I included stamp sets that were similar and are still available. You could potentially get them if they are currently sold out. I also am basing a lot of my pages off of the Ashley Horton Well Read kit and using the die cuts, or else using the die cuts and turning them into stickers. So I will be using this kit and mainly the die cuts. Love this collection, and it's linked in the description box. So I hope you guys are ready. I had so much fun putting this together. Let's get started on putting it together and the voiceover. Okay, so my first step in putting together my journal is to stamp some titles. And like I said in my intro, I didn't know how stamping was going to go since this journal is new to me, the whole brand. It's Clever Fox, but Elle, I've mentioned her before, she recommended it, and I figured let's just try some stamping, and there really isn't a lot of ghosting. So I'm excited to just go for it. And my first step is just stamping various titles with all my different stamps that I can find in my stash. I have a whole pile stacked over to the right of me. I also decided that I wanted to use a collection called Well Read by Ashley Horton. I think I've mentioned that a few times, and I may have mentioned it in the intro, but I'm going to come back after I stamp some titles and add in some stickers as well. Now, the next page that I'm trying to decide on is the 2024 books. This is where I put in the really tiny covers of the books and cover the whole page with all the book covers of the books that I've read. And I start in the crease with the year 4 and then 2 and go backwards that way. And then I stamp books, but I'm not a fan of how the font in books and the year is different, but there's nothing I can do and I can't change it, so it is what it is. I will add one little stamp in the bottom right-hand corner that says Let's Get Lit, and it's from Syncopation Designs. I just love it. And I'll also add some open books up in the top by the 2024, and then I'm going to color them in later on. And I will say that coloring in with marker for this type of journal does leave some bleeding through, so I would suggest colored pencil. That might be a better option, and I did choose that option later on when I was working on my genres page. And going forward, I might just use colored pencil because I really don't want significant bleed through like I had with the markers. Just using some washi tape to kind of anchor down the title and take away some of the difference in the height of the stamp sets that I used. Because like I said, it's an obvious difference between the different stamp sets I used, but putting down that washi helped to make it not look so obvious. The next page I'm gonna add a title for is 2024 Goals, another page inspired by Elle. Last year I did a similar page, but I kept it to just one page and I felt like I scrunched everything together. So this year I want to spread it out into 2 pages and I'm gonna make really long, I want to say bars or rectangles. So I'm going to use that to distinguish all the different goals I have. And I'm excited to use this page and I'm excited to just have everything spread out. Now that I have the title, I'm going to go ahead and erase what I had written up in the top right-hand corner. I wrote out the order of my reading journal in the right-hand corner, and I'll just erase it with a sand eraser. Wrote it very lightly with some pencil. For right now, I thought that my only decoration for this page was going to be some pink washi tape, but later on I'm going to take it off and add a sticker or some stickers from the Well Red kit. But in the meantime, this washi tape works great. My next page is going to be the monthly faves. I actually went back to a favorite page that I made a couple years ago, I believe. I think it was. But it was the year where I used Feed Your Craft frames and used that to put in my favorite books, and you'll see me stamp the frames later on. For right now, I am just stamping monthly faves using this Carrie Bradford stamp set called Iris. I absolutely love it and I can't get enough of it, and it's one stamp set that I recommend everybody to have. So I wrote out monthly faves and I counted how many letters was in those 2 words because I was trying to find the middle point and like how many letters I should put on the left-hand side and how many I should put on the right-hand side. But I think it wound up being not even, so my plan didn't really work, but that's okay. I love keeping track of monthly faves and just knowing like which book really touched me or resonated with me or was just an unexpected book. So excited to continue this book, continue this page. It's definitely a no-brainer when it comes to my reading journal. I'll add the next few letters and then I'll move on to the next spread where I totally botched the title. Well, I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comment section if you'd like. I take no offense, but I decided to use this stamp set from Ali Edwards and Laura Wansick, and I thought it would be nice or just a fun change to do kind of the script type of font on this stamp set, and I wanted to stamp out 2024 annual stats. Another page I took from Elle. It's where you document all the stats of your books. You'll see that come together later on, but it has stats like total books, audio, Kindle, total pages, minutes listened, average length, all the different stats in one spot, and I thought that was really cool. So I'm going to stamp annual stats with this cursive script font and stamp set, and it just looks like mush. The N, N, and U just make it look like it's just one loop-de-loop letter. I don't know. It just looks messy. I have not decided yet if I'm gonna change it, but I don't know. It didn't turn out the way that I wanted, and you can see here it just looks like a loopy-loop, but I can tell that it says annual stats. It just doesn't look very pretty. I also am going to stamp the 2024 with the numbers, but I wind up stamping a 0 instead of a 2. So I just grab a scratch piece of grid paper, stamp the 2, and then I will cut it out and glue it over the top, and you can't really tell. I mean, if you're looking close up, yes, you can tell, but I was able to fix the mistake so that it does not say 2004. It says 2024. Because
because I was not reading nearly as much in 2004. I think I was graduating my senior year of high school. I don't know. Or starting college. I was only reading college textbooks. I was not reading necessarily for fun. Next up is adding some stickers. I went back to my computer and printed out a bunch of clear stickers from Ashley's kit, and I changed the color of the girl's hair to kind of have blonde, similar to mine. When it's freshly dyed, I guess you could say. And right below that, I put currently reading, and that's all I'm going to do for the title page. Normally, I've done in years past, like last year, and I think the year before, I did a whole page with stampy book phrases and the year in the middle. I did not do that this year. I wanted to keep it very simple. And this is where I used the markers on the 2024 books page and realized there is a lot of bleed through, way more than I thought. So like I said, I will probably use colored pencils going forward, but I was able to pick out markers that coordinated and went well or matched the well-read kit. And if I have to add an insert to this page like I have in years past, I can do that later on, but I love how this is very simple and to the point when it comes to documenting my books for the year. With this page completed, the year of books page, I can move on to the next page, which is 2024 goals, and I printed some banners that I thought would be fun to go across this page on both sides. I actually could have printed 2 banners for the right-hand side. That way it would have covered all that white space, but no biggie. And then I'm just going to make those long skinny boxes. I think I mentioned those earlier, and I'll have a total of 9 goals for the year and room if I want to add more. So I just go over about 3 dots, and then I'm going to stamp my letter, or not my letter, my number there. And then I go over a total of 6 dots and draw my box. I draw my box all the way across the rest of the page and then put my goal underneath. So the first one is read 125 books. This year I read 150. Maybe a few more, I'm not sure. But if I continue to listen to audiobooks, I think 125 is pretty attainable. And read 50,000 pages. I think I got there this year. It's pretty attainable. 55 audiobooks. And number 4 is going to be 15 middle grade books. And I'm really hoping to remember to participate in middle grade March. I totally forgot this year. So I'm hoping to remember and just actually do a little more research to read middle grade books along with graphic novels. And I've talked about that in previous reading journal books. I'm actually reading a graphic novel series called Lore and Olympus, and I'm really, really enjoying it. It's a great, great series. So my 6th goal down at the bottom is 8 nonfiction books, which I think is pretty attainable. I really seem to enjoy nonfiction books when I listen to them. So I think that will be easily attainable. Right now, I'm actually listening to an audiobook called The Lazy Genius Way. And so far, I'm only like an hour into it, and I've already written down 4 quotes. So super enjoying that one. And another audiobook I really loved was The Many Lives of Mama Love. Whew, I could not stop listening to that one. So goal number 7 is going to be 10 plus Goodreads award winners or nominees. And I'm going to do my best to remember to keep track of that. And then 8, I thought it'd be fun to do 5 chunky books, like really thick books, and then finish 4 series. I did not put classics on this list. I may go back and add it since I have room, but I had a hard time reading classics and finding classics to read. For 2023, my goal, I think, was 3 classics, and I read 2, which isn't bad. I stuck with, I think, kid type classics. So technically I made my goal, right? I went back to this Ali Edwards stamp set and really wanted to use the typewriter looking numbers, and totally forgot that I do not have a 6. I no longer have a 6, and I was so frustrated. So I had to use the 6 from a different place on that sheet. And then I thought about dividing up the boxes to figure out how I was going to use that one box for the certain amount. And then I was like, you know what? It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to move on and I'll just add in, you know, a little hash mark or fill in a little bit. I don't need to take the time to divide it up with pencil. So for the monthly faves, I added in some washi tape that was clear sticker, and I also grabbed the Feed Your Craft stamp set. And I know that Feed Your Craft is retired, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in the intro. I picked out a stamp set that is not retired, and it's from Ali Edwards. It is a frames stamp set. It might be sold out right now, but I picked out something similar for any stamp set that was sold out. Because I don't know about you, but that's frustrating when someone uses a product and it's no longer available. So I went looking for alternatives for you guys. I'm laying out these frames to kind of figure out how I can get 6 on the page. I want to use most of them, and I think I wind up using all of them except one, which was the oval one. So I am going to go ahead and stamp the first one, and it did not stamp so great, so I had to stamp it a second time, which I probably shouldn't have done because of the bleed through. So that's a good thing to know about this notebook, is if you're using black ink, do not stamp twice because the notebook does not like that. I kept the circle frame down at the bottom so that way I knew where to stamp this particular frame a second time. It didn't stamp, so I stamped it again and again. Not a good idea. And my next step is going to just keep going in that pattern of stamping the different frames, and that way I can then add the nail hooks and also the months. But I love going back to this simple format of monthly faves. Last year I did a cut file and really challenged myself with that cut file, and I loved it, and I could still do it if I wanted to, but I'm in a season of life where I need to make things easier for myself. And if that means that I don't necessarily spend a lot of time on a cut file project, that is totally okay. So I just went back to a favorite design, and I'm having a lot of fun making it. And I will go with the colors of orange and brown and a little bit of, well, the orange and the brown, and then of course the black. I was really thinking, oh my goodness, this is going Halloween, but it's not. I'm going to pretend it's like an old style library of frames to document all my favorites. After I have all of these, I'm going to grab the, I don't know, it's almost like an open triangle, and that's the hanging wire. And after I have that, I can add in the nails, and I do that with a brown marker and then outline with a micron brown pen. And after that, I can grab my calendar stamp set from Everyday Explorers and go ahead and stamp all the months. So I'll speed it up, and that way you don't have to listen to me talking, but you can see it come together. I'm getting ready to move over to the second page, and I had told myself, don't forget, you have to grab the July. Don't forget to skip a spot for July. I didn't do that. So I wound up stamping August where July needed to be, and again, I'm going to have to grab a piece of scrap paper to go ahead and stamp August and September and then fix my mistake. I think July had fallen off the stamp sheet, and I'd set it off to the side and had forgotten to put it back on the stamp sheet. So basically made things more difficult for myself, but having that scrap piece of paper is definitely going to work. The only problem is when I go to cover up October, or I think it was October, one of the months, I'm going to have to add some stars over the top so that way I can cover up the mistake. But you know what? You just make a mistake, figure out how to get past it, and just keep going. You don't rip out the pages, even if you kind of feel like you want to rip out the pages. So you just keep going. So I've got, I fixed July and I fixed August and September, and then I'll add in some brown stars at the end. And I love this page. I love it. And what I'll do is I'll just eyeball the width and the height for the different book covers for each month, and then I can add in the book covers. I can also refer back to my 2022 journal to see what sizes I have. So very excited to try out this frames piece and see how it looks at the end of the year. I also made sure to make the different months longer. So like July, I had to have some extra paper on it. So that way when I added it to my oops, it completely covered up where August was. And then I'll add in a few of those brown stars to finish up this spread and call it done and stop messing around with it. So I think I did add a few pink blush stars just to kind of balance out that Halloween feeling that I had, but you can't really see the blush stars unless you're looking really close. So I don't know if I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish with that, but still looks fantastic, and I'm glad I went back to this tried and true method of getting down my faves. I finally found my July, and now I can add in the July up where the August was and make sure I add some extra paper and call it done. So my next page is going to be figuring out how I will document my annual stats. Now, Elle, the wonderful person I keep mentioning, she is on Instagram and does all the reading journal amazing stuff. And I know I've mentioned her several times, but I just want to make sure that I keep giving her credit for her ideas. She just does a simple grid, and I figured I have a lot of stamping on the left-hand side where the frames are, and I also am going to have some where the bookshelves are going to be on the following page. So if there's a way I can do less stamping on this page, I'm going to go ahead and try that. So what I did is I counted all the dots on the page going vertical and horizontal, and then figured out a way to divide it. Now I can't remember how many dots there was, but I wound up doing 2.5 dots horizontal and then 3 dots going vertical. So it's going to make a lot of different columns, which I need because I think I wind up with 10 or so different categories that I want to keep track of through the year. But overall, this page was very simple to put together because it was just a grid with using a pen and then a few die cuts and stickers, and that's about it. So once I have the grid laid out in pencil, I can go ahead and fill it in with pen. So I will just speed it up so that way you can see it come together. Okay, whew, that was a lot of work, but wait till you see the Goodreads page because that's going to be even more work. So I drew out this grid, and you guys, it was so worth the work because I love it. Now I can keep track of all these stats and see the whole thing at the end of the year. So for the first column, I have total books, then I have physical, audio, and Kindle, then the total number of pages read, minutes listened, the average length of my book, 5-star books, average rating for the month, graphic novels, and then library savings, and one column left over at the end in case I think of another category that I can include because I wanted 12 columns because that kind of made sense to me instead of having 11. And then down the rows, I will put the months and just simply write them out with my handwriting and highlight them. So January through December, and I'll finish up the page by adding a few die cuts, like I said. So very simple, but very excited to see this page, and I'd love to know if you guys have ever tried this page. It's going to be so much fun to fill in all these little stats about my reading. So the next step, grab that bucket of die cuts that I have and figure out which one I want to use for this page. I definitely feel like this page needs some color, so I found a colorful die cut that says read more books. So I'll go ahead and add that and then anchor it down with a piece of clear washi, it was a wood grain paper, and I turned it into stickers, and so now it kind of looks like washi tape. So I'm going to use that to anchor down the die cut and then add a little piece over on the top left-hand corner, so that way it kind of helps create that visual triangle and makes for a better overall design flow. And then after that, I get to do the big project of the shelves. First, I'm going to erase everything with a white eraser because now I don't need the pencil marks. For me, it's so important to use the pencil first because I'm not someone that can draw straight or just do it freehand. So let's get started on building my shelves. I know that I'm going to need 2 sets of shelves, so 1 page of shelves and then a second page of shelves. And this past year, 2023, I wound up needing an insert. I don't know if I'm going to need that for, 2024. You never know how your year's going to go, right? So you just plan for what you can. And if I do wind up needing another insert, I will do that. Because I also did not count the books as I stamped. I didn't. So I used an outline stamp set from Feed Your Craft, and I believe that Carrie Bradford has one, an outline stamp set, but I can't remember which one I linked down in the description box. But I love this outline stamp set because you can color it in any color you want, and I stamp my and then she, and then Shelfie is over on the right hand side. Now the tricky part was trying to stamp these books on the left hand side. Even though I had some foam underneath it, it did not want to stamp, and it was just, I couldn't stamp straight to save my life, but that's okay. I'm just gonna make it work. So I took out the foam thing and then I drew the lines for where the bookcase was because I wanted to stamp a book first, so that way I knew how much or how tall the stack of books was, and then I could figure out the bookcase. And I'm also going to continue to leave room for different plants, and I printed out some clear stickers for that. Other years, I have just done it with stamps where I stamp a bunch of different flower pots and taken a lot of time to doodle stuff or make my own planters. I think I did that in 2022. I used different stamps to make my own plant boxes, but again, remembering the season of life I'm in, clear stickers is the ticket, and I will use those to help me move along. So I'm on to the second row, and I add a bunch of vertical books, none of the laying down books. That way I have lots of them. And then I will make a third row. Third row is where things got really wonky and I don't know what was happening, but I was not stamping very straight. But with this Sharpie pen, I'm able to kind of fill in the lines that did not stamp. And then it almost looks like it wasn't an oops. So just work with it and try to make it the best that you can, right? Okay, I'm going to speed things up just a little bit so that way you can see more of these shelves come together. Okay, now I'm going to put together the last row of books and then add in those clear stickers. I even printed one that has like the cat sitting on a stack of books, which I think is just fantastic. I love it. So I'm going to put the cat on the second shelf of books and then add another large plant to the bottom right. I also have some word phrase stickers that I want to try to add. I have clear stickers and also die cut stickers of the different word phrases so I can pick which one I want to use. And I think I'm gonna go with the die cuts. And then one of them, the read more, that's just going to be a clear sticker. And I got the clever idea to just trim off the read more so that way it's sitting on top of the book. And right next to that, I'm going to add book nerd and kind of tilt the words as well. Didn't forget to erase the My Shelfie up in the top right corner, and I will color in the letters with a green. Now, when I colored in a lot of the letters on this page, it started to take on a pattern of the letters from the other page, and I was kind of looking at it like what is going on, but it turned out pretty cool, even though it has that pattern behind it. I will then color in my bookshelves, and I'm doing a brown, and I'm so glad that I did. I think most years I go with like a neutral, a gray, or yeah, a neutral gray, and I don't do brown, and I don't know why. So I'm going back to brown. I don't know if I've ever done brown, but brown just feels like those old bookcases. So I'm just going with brown, and I love it. I think it really makes the bookshelves pop and also the plants pop as well. And then I can get started on the second set of shelves and basically make the same design. I don't replicate exactly where I'm going to stamp the books. I don't have time to pay attention to that kind of pattern making, so I'm just gonna fill my shelves however I want, not replicating the same design or anything like that. This is where I grabbed that sheet of word phrase pieces from the kit, and I'm going to pick out a few. I picked out Bibliophile. It's a black word phrase sticker, and it's going to go on the middle shelf. And then over in the bottom left-hand corner, I kind of goofed on my stamping like really bad. Fixed it as best as I could with pen, but I'm going to add a word phrase sticker to the bottom that says this year's read. And of course, that book nerd sticker that I picked out, I will just tilt that. Just something a little fun and a little different to add some more visual interest. I've adhered down all the pieces that I need to, and then I can move on to the second set of shelves. And again, I will start by stamping my Shelfie and repeat everything except where I stamp the books and the pattern of how I stamp books. I also am going to make sure that I have room for a little sign sticker. You can see it in the top of the screen. It says reading in progress. It kind of reminds me of like if you have a sign on a real shelf. That's kind of what I left room for, so I want to make sure that I can add that in. I'll put that on the first shelf. And again, I will have 3 shelves on both sides, left and right. And I kind of mentioned it a little bit ago, but I really don't like laying these books down horizontally. For me, it just feels like they have to go facing the left. Like, I don't feel like that they can go to the right, because that little tiny book doesn't look good on the bottom. It looks wonky. So I don't know, it just bugs me. So that's why I prefer more vertical books. And as you can see, I grabbed that reading in progress and left it in that spot. Same thing with the potted plant and the books. And if I know that I'm gonna go and stamp a book right at the edge or right in the crease, that's where I grab my scratch piece of paper and use that, so that way I don't stamp where I don't want to stamp. And I add the stickers as I go this time, and just continue on with making my shelves, and it's gonna look fantastic. I so love coming up with different ways to make my shelves, and this is definitely one of the easiest ones that I have made. I remember one year, I believe it was 2019 or 20, I hand drew every single book. I don't know what possessed me to do that, but I know that I didn't have any physical stamp that was a book. But I didn't even think to try to look digitally. I just decided, you know what? I can draw all these books by myself. And oh my goodness, my hand hurt for so long. So I'm glad I now have stamps to help me speed along this process. So I'll speed it up, and that way you can see the rest of this shelf come together. Now it's on to the final step, which is kind of the fun part, where I get to glue in the different word phrase stickers and also color in the shelves and color in the letters. And my tilted word phrase strip is down at the bottom, and it says "so many books, so little time." And up at the top left, the first shelf on the left-hand side, I have comfy and cozy. So there's little pops of pink. And I wound up doing less stickers, I think, on this spread, because I added in so many books. So hopefully I'll have enough books, but if not, like I said, it's not going to be a hard fix to add in a insert. So now I drew in the brown shelves. Again, so glad I picked brown. Brown is the way to go, and I will continue to go with brown forevermore. Now, speaking of hand drawing things and deciding, hey, I am a superhero and I can draw all the things, that is what I did with my Goodreads challenge. And I remember telling you guys that I was going to try my best to get some stencils to make this job easier for me, but I ran out of time. You know, life is so busy. I ran out of time to research where to get a small stencil with a square. So I am going to do it myself. I start off by using my ruler and taking that ruler and drawing each of the lines using the ruler as a guide, which is great in practice because it's going to help so I get most of the boxes looking uniform, but it's going to take too long to just use the ruler that way, and it would be faster, I figured out, to just do it by hand. And so I am going to draw out over 150 boxes, individual boxes, and then go back through and highlight every single box. But in the end, it was the simplest way I could think to do a Goodreads challenge. Last year, I did a game board, and while I liked it, it did not turn out the way that I wanted. And I just overthought it too much. This year, this was very simple. I can fill in the books with a different color or colored pencil and move forward. And hopefully, I mean, who knows how many books I'll read, right? But I'd love to be able to have the space over on the right-hand side. There's a little bit of space once I get done, and I could use that space to make a key. If I don't have that space, that's okay. And here is where I kind of made an error. I put the numbers 8, 16, 24, and so on, not realizing that, you know, Sabrina, you're gonna have to draw on the other page, and the numbers are gonna go left to right, both sides. So I shouldn't have done that. I'll have to cover that up with some paper later on, but you know, that's my mistake. So I am not showing you every single box that I drew because you get the point, but I'm gonna speed this up again so that way you can see all of the boxes come together. But again, I left a little more than 150 spaces on the left and the right, and I'm just kind of adding up, or I was adding up how many boxes I had total. And once I get all the boxes, I can then add in the numbers. Now that I have all of the boxes drawn, I grab my Carrie Bradford stamp set, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp out Goodreads. Instead of Goodreads challenge, that would just take too long. Again, going with simpler is more efficient. And then I'll add some washi tape. I chose a fun like rainbow heart one just to give it a little pop of color. The next step after that is going to be adding in the pieces of paper to cover up the numbers that should not be there. And then I will number all of the squares, and I will also highlight everything as well with a gray Tombow. Everybody always says that this gray Tombow works perfect for shadowing. I don't know if I did it right. I don't know if it looks good because I have such wonky boxes, but I did it, and I put all the effort into highlighting all these little boxes. So I am proud of myself for not only sticking with a simple design, but also just dealing with all these itty bitty boxes. This is a very simple and effective way to document all of the Goodreads books that I read. I wound up with little squares almost all the way to the bottom. There's more on the left side than the right side. Again, I could use that right hand side to make a key at the end of the year if I have room. If I don't, that's okay. I get most of my books through the library, and I can choose to get a receipt or not get a receipt. But either way, both of those ways tell me how much I save through the library. So I figured, wouldn't it be really amazing to see the total number of savings using my library? I have the well-read kit, and I had planned on doing a scrapbook layout that said library haul, Well, I wound up not doing that, and that's okay, but I can use the letters library, and I glued those down. I actually wish I had thought to cut out another title from this kit, so that way it wasn't the only spread using these die cut letters, but that's okay. So I glue down library, and then right below it, I'm just gonna write savings. I'm not gonna try to stamp it or anything, just write it out. And then the design is very simple. The right hand side is just for fun and adding in some die cuts, and then the left hand side will be drawing lines for each of the months. I realized that some of my letters were crooked, and so I decided to scoot down the A and wound up destroying the A. So I just completely ripped it out, grabbed another A, and then adhered it down so that way I could keep moving forward. So with this design, it's just going to be drawing a line, like I said, and then skip a line, draw a line, and so on and so forth, and then write out my months, and I can go ahead and just write the total number of savings. Now, I visit the library multiple times in a month, so I figure I can write the dollar amount and then a slash, and then maybe over on the far right-hand side, I can do like a total. So I might add like a column over on the end to write the total for the month. Because like right now, I just went to the library a couple days ago and I have books that are due in January, so I could technically add that savings to this page. So it's going to be really, really cool to see this all come together. I'm excited about this page. The well-read collection had this old-fashioned library checkout card, so I included that and layered it with a check me out die cut and also a clear sticker that was a blue. And then I'll put another blue die cut that says read more and another one up by the title that says book nerd, and I'll tie it all together with some neutral tan washi tape. And that is it, my friends. Very simple, and it's going to be so good to see all these stats at the end of the year. And I'm just excited about how this journal is coming together, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. Next up is A to Z, and it is my least favorite page. I do not like the way that it turned out, and I should have gone with what my original idea was. My original idea was to use clear sticker paper to type out A to Z. Since my typewriter font of a stamp set is all messed up. And I decided, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. Let's just try to use this Carrie Bradford stamp set. And while I love the stamp set, this particular font is obviously way too big to be using for the A to Z challenge. So I stamp an A and I decided to keep going. Maybe it'll look okay. And I just kept going, you guys. So this is my least favorite page. There's 3 columns in total because of how big the letters are. And I will have to write the titles very small. And I'm just overall not happy with how this page turned out. There's no way around it. I suppose if I wanted to, I could just cover it up, get us another piece of paper and just cover it up, but I'm not going to do that. So I will just deal with it as is. So the last column is going to have T through Z, and that's it. I'm not going to add anything else to it because the page is already so busy with all the big stamping. And so the next page I'll move on to is genres. Now for genres last year, I did the Syncopations Design stamp set, and I loved it. I love her stamp sets. So I will continue to use her stamps and mainly the genres one. I will link it in the description box, but I will use that to make this page. Last year I did a double page spread and there was a lot of extra room. So I figured I don't need all that room, and I can even eliminate some of the genres that I don't typically read and just try to conserve space, basically. I stamped out genres with that outline stamp set, and now I'm going to kind of pick and choose which genres I want to include. And I have romance, young adult, and graphic novel, children's, and then I add into fun categories that aren't necessarily genres, but they do kind of relate. So favorite and tearjerker. And when I laid out these stamps, I thought I would get 3 per row, and I wound up being able to get 4 per row. So that's why I was able to add in the bonus 2 categories that will be at the end. Once I stamp the first genre, I go ahead and draw a line as my guide. Then I will draw some lines in pen so that way I can do the tally marks. And since I know that markers are going to bleed, I will use colored pencils later on when I get done stamping all the different genres. So I wind up with a total of 10 genres that I'm going to keep track of, and 2 are the bonus ones. Now I will say, I looked back on my journal from last year and did take note of the fact that romance needed 3 lines. But I went ahead and just stuck with 2 lines, and if I do need 3 lines or extra room for romance, I will deal with that when the time comes. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up and finish coloring in all of these different genres. I borrowed my daughter's colored pencils and got to work on coloring all these fun genres, and it turned out fantastic. Okay, the genres page is all finished, and I love how it came together. Definitely glad that I simplified it to 1 page and really picked the categories that I read, plus those 2 bonus categories. So, and I'm also really glad that I went with colored pencils. Next up is 12 books, 12 friends. And I will say that my good friend Erica and I actually picked 3 books for each other, so that was kind of fun. I think we picked something outside the normal genre that we enjoy, a book that we would definitely recommend, like a romance, and then a self-help book. So we picked 3 for each other, but I only put 1 of those on there. And then for the other books I got from Instagram suggestions, and I am so excited for all these books. I got some fantastic suggestions, and I just cannot wait. I love reading, and I'm excited to have a whole new selection of books. Like some of these books, I read the review and I was like, how did I not hear about this book? Why do I not know about this book? So this design was completely and totally inspired by my Bloom challenge spread from last year. I did a ton of flowers around the border and then some open-faced books. And I didn't use that page at all because the Bloom challenge never happened. And I had mentioned that I could come up with my own challenge, but I never did. So I just never used that page, which is fine. And now I can use the design for a page that I know I will definitely use. And I'm excited to have all these different flowers here. And I will put the books down in 3 rows, and then I will add a rating and the name of who suggested the book. So I'm excited to have this page, and I hope you guys see some good books that you wouldn't mind reading too, because there is some good books in these recommendations. So like I said, I'm going to put the name right below the book. I even got a book on there from my dear friend Carlos. His book is A Face Like Glass, and he's been telling me to read it for months. So I finally decided to put it on there. And right below the name, I can put the My Rating. Apparently, the My Rating stamp was kind of slipped off because the block was wet from previous cleaning. So I didn't smudge too much, and then I can add in the rating for the books. And I will say, my friend Jen Boom, she's Mrs. Boom Reads on Instagram. She recommended Just Like Magic. And I just finished that book, and it was an incredible, little bit of spicy romance, but I'm going to totally count it for the next year. So my rules, my journal, right? I decided it would be fun to outline the books in black, just to make them stand out a little bit. And I will do the same thing like I did last year, where I outline them with a Tombow once I am finished reading them. Next up is the read around the USA. I thoroughly enjoyed this challenge this past year, 2023, but I did not complete September through December. It was just hard. I don't know why, but it just fell off. I'm hoping this year with the change in the challenge that I will be able to complete it, and I want to pay more attention to where the books are set, and that way if I stumble across a book that fits the category, then that would be perfect and I could check off that region. But this year, the change is that it is self-paced. So you still have all the 12 different sections of the United States, plus a traveling month where you travel between different states, and a U.S. territories section. So you still have all of the same sections, but you are self-paced and you go to whichever section you want to go whenever and whatever month. So I think this will work better for me when I am trying to pick out my books, or like I said, just reading a book and I happen to notice, oh, it's from Colorado. Then I can potentially just cross off that section and know that I have completed it. There's also a challenge where you can read a book from every USA state and territory, which is just, that would be astonishing if I could. Because I don't know about you, I find there is a lot of books that take place in New York, and I have no idea why. I got the printed sheet all cut apart, and now I'm going to stagger it a little bit and also add in an insert so that way I can put the book covers on the insert. I wanted to see if I could put or have enough room to put it down at the bottom, but I do not have enough room, and I'm not going to try to cram it all in there. So the insert is just going to work just fine. Took a folded piece of dot grid paper, and then I will add in the book covers. I'm using a piece of scrap to add in the shape of the book. So 1 inch wide by 1.5 inches tall. 1.5 inches tall. And then I'll add in the region. step is going to be cutting out the read around the USA and adding that plus some colorful washi that I wanted to include. It's rainbow washi, it's really bright, and it goes with all of the colors. And I had it in the bottom right corner, but I'm going to move it up to the top left corner once I've added in the washi. And this is where I grab the scrap piece of paper and start to trace the shape of the book and also include the category. And I will also have to cut up these little pieces that say the different categories since this is self-paced. I hope I didn't mention that already, but that is the process that I'm going to go with as I build this page. After I have drawn all the boxes, labeled the different categories, I then cut out those little different regions like I said I would, and I'm gluing those down. And the next step is to find some markers that match the regions. That way I can just put a line underneath each region, so that way it tells me. It's just more for aesthetics, I guess. But it, to me, felt like it needed a line under it. That way I could tell like where it was from. And I just thought it made sense to me to add a little line of color. So I'm just grabbed a bunch of markers and drew a line. I didn't want to do a full box around the different regions, but I love how it turned out. It's very colorful, and I love this self-paced version of the challenge. So rate the romance. The actual challenge has not come out, and it may not come out until the first week in January, if not the second. So I decided to get started on decorating and use this very spicy themed stamp set from Syncopation Designs. It's all about hot girls reading smut, aka romance. And I wanted to make my own clear stickers. So I took the clear sticker paper and some Stays On ink. I swear it smells like bubblegum from my childhood. But I took that and I'm going to stamp a ton of the different stamped sentiments on it, let it dry, and then come back to it and cut out all of the different sentiments. Like, I still read fairy tales. They're just spicier now. I dust my shelves, but my books are still filthy. And of course, some fire, and then lips like with a sh symbol, and then also emotionally attached to fictional characters. I am so excited to try this out, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work. Stays On ink is fantastic, except for the smell. So once I've let it dry, this is where I will cut it out and adhere it to the bottom of the Rate Your Romance, and it'll create a fantastic border, and I'll also anchor it with some black washi. I think this is turning out so fantastic. And I think for this type of journal, Clever Fox, if you want to do less stamping because of the bleed through, then this is the perfect option. So stays on ink and clear sticker paper, which is always linked in the description box. So this looks fantastic and I just love this fun idea. Whew, I think that is the last page for my reading journal, and now I'm going to go back to the beginning and show you how it all looks. So we start off with the cover 2024, then we move into the year of books, followed by the annual stats, the goals, and then the monthly faves, and then the stats, my 2 shelves, Goodreads, and A to Z, genres, 12 books, 12 friends, read around the USA, and then rate the romance. Whew! I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing this. It was a lot longer than I anticipated, but I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing it. I would love a thumbs up or a subscribe if you are new to my channel. Have a wonderful day. Bye.